Good morning.
Morning, ma'am.
Yeah. Sneha, Elvina, please switch on the video. Okay. Ashish, which were the three traits in host theory, Allport's theory? Names of three traits.
Central
Hmm.
traits,
Hmm. Mm-hmm.
uh,
Kathakali. Central
uh,
trait.
secondary traits,
Hmm. You missed one.
uh, say
Which are the most prominent?
Malum,
Ka? Ka?
uh, car,
Kar?
I
Kar?
forgot.
You forgot. Okay. Amal,
Yes, ma'am.
what did he miss?
Cardinal trait.
Cardinal traits. Can you give me one example of a cardinal trait? Whom did we discuss about when we discussed cardinal trait yesterday? He talked about many famous personalities. Who are they?
Mahatma Gandhi.
Mahatma Gandhi. So, what is one of the or some of the traits that make a person a Gandhian or Gandhi-like?
mm, Ma'am, Ahimsa, peace.
Ahimsa, peace, truth, non-violence, all those. Okay, fine. Um, who explained source traits and surface traits? Meghna.
Raymond Cattell.
Raymond B. Cathy. Okay. Sneha.
Yes, ma'am. Source states are stable and surface states are uh, a number of source states.
Kind of. But surface traits are, I drew one picture, remember? Surface traits are directly observable because they are at the surface. So they are directly observable. So traits are usually explained in opposing tendencies. Okay. Just like we explained dominance. If dominance is a source trait, then it can be explained in two ways. Either a person can be very dominant or the person can be submissive. Okay. Then what else is there? Yeah, based on Cattell's trait theory, he has developed one questionnaire or tool or a psychological test. What is its name, Elvina?
16 personality factors.
Questionnaire 16PF. We call it 16PF. And which statistical method did he use, Aishwarya, to find the traits?
Factor analysis.
Factor analysis. Okay, fine. So shall we move on? Did you start preparing for the seminar? Yes. Not we, as soon as I finish teaching you psychodynamic approach, we start with the post-Freudian approaches. Starting from Carl Jung. Who is taking Carl Jung? Aishwarya. Okay. Carl Jung. Then we'll go for Karen Horney. Then Alfred Adler, Eric Fromm, Eric Erikson. Then behavioral approach, and in the same order itself. Okay. And I told you, I don't want you to read the textbook. Simply stand and read or whatever presentation you have made. You have to explain it using examples. just the way I do in class. You have to teach us basically what the topic is. Hmm? It should be minimum 10 to 15 minutes, maximum you can decide. No problem. Hmm? If you need my help, please, I'm free. Okay. Now, next topic is Eysenck's theory. Copy down Eysenck's theory. Eysenck's personality theory. There is no E here. Note that most of the people make such a mistake. EYESENCK, but there is no E there. It's only EYSENCK. Eysenck's theory. Usually for Eysenck's theory, we say only 2 dimensions. 2 dimensions are there. But not recently, after these 2 dimensions, this Eysenck has proposed one more dimension, which interacts with the earlier proposed 2 dimensions. Okay, so generally, if somebody asks you how many dimensions are there are only 2. But later on, a 3rd dimension was added, which interacts with the first 2 dimensions. Understood? So if it is a one-dimensional figure, you will represent it in which axis? You will represent it along which axis when you do geometry or mathematics?
X-axis.
X-axis. If there are 2 dimensions,
X and Y.
X and Y. If there are 3 dimensions, X, Y,
And depth or height.
X, Y, and Z. See, when you if only one dimension is there, just like a line, that would be X. If there is another dimension, we'll represent along Y. There is a 3rd dimension, draw it like Z. Mathematics students might know X, Y, Z. This is nothing related, but I'm just telling. There is only one dimension, 1. And if there are 2 dimensions, X and Y, then there is here in our theory, we have a 3rd dimension which interacts with other 2 dimensions. Understood? I just drew to make you understand. That's all. It's not there in this theory. Okay. So there are 3 dimensions actually in total. But according to the theory, initially we say only 2 dimensions. Along with these 2 dimensions, recently or after proposing these 2 dimensions, Eysenck also proposed one more dimension which interacts with the other 2 dimensions. Too many dimensions? Confusions? No. Okay, we'll see what the dimensions are. Ashish, start reading. H.J. Eysenck.
H.J.
Eysenck.
Eysenck
H.J.
proposed
Eysenck.
that
Hans Eysenck.
was
Hans J. Eysenck proposed that
that personality reduced into 2 dimensions. They are biologically and genetically based.
underline that they are
dimensions
biologically and genetically based. These 2 dimensions are biologically as well as genetically based. Then
each dimension subsumes a number of specific traits. These dimensions are
wait a minute. Each dimension subsumes a number of specific traits. What does that mean? Each dimension would contain number of specific traits. That's it. Understood? Okay, now these dimensions are, come on. Hmm. Hmm. Neuroticism,
Neuroticism and emotional stability. It refers to the
neuroticism
degree
and
to which the
emotional
people
stability.
have control
Hmm.
stability. It refers to degrees to which people have control over their feelings. At
Hmm.
one extreme extreme of this dimension, we find people who are ne- neurotic,
Neurotic. Neurotic.
neurotic,
Hmm.
neurotic.
Hmm.
They are anxious, moody,
Anxious,
anxious,
moody,
moody,
touchy,
touchy,
restless,
restless, and quickly lose
lose
control.
control. Okay.
At the other, at the other extreme, like people who are calm, even tempered,
Huh? Who
reliable,
are calm, even tempered.
tempered,
Hmm.
reliable, and remains under control.
Reliable and remain under control. Okay, just look at the two descriptions of neuroticism and emotional stability. You know what emotional stability is, right? You know. Anybody who does not know what emotional stability is? No. Emotional stability means stability of emotions, of course. And neuroticism is just the opposite of that. Okay, now look at the characteristics. They are anxious, moody, touchy, restless, and quickly lose control. That is the characteristic features of people with neuroticism. Now, at the other extreme, like people who are calm, even tempered, reliable, and remain under control. Can you think of the type approaches? Any types that has these characteristics?
Type A and B.
Type A and B. And the first one, neuroticism, that forms type A or type B?
Type A.
Type A. And the other one?
Type B.
Type B. Yes. So type A was anxiety prone. Remember? I told you to remember with the word A, with the alphabet A. They were anxiety prone. They are always in a hurry. They have higher chances of getting which disease? Anyone? Type A people, they have higher chances of getting which disease? Elvina, your face says that you are confused. Any guess? Any guess, Elvina?
No, ma'am, I have some confusion that
That?
disease.
What confusion do you have? Clear it now itself.
That person might get like heart disease soon.
Yes, yes. What heart disease? Ashish, switch on the video. What the heart disease? It's called CHD. Fill it up. And related to the pandemic that we are facing.
Coronary heart disease.
Coronary heart disease. So the people who belongs to type A, they have higher chances of getting coronary heart disease. And here we are not discussing that, but uh, according to Eysenck, there are two dimensions. The first dimension is neuroticism versus emotional stability. In that dimension, Neuroticism has the characteristics of, or most of the characteristics of type A personality. But this is a trait approach, that is a type approach. Remember that. Okay. And here, emotional stability. The people with the trait emotional stability, they have the characteristics of type B people from the type approach. Got it? So, people with neuroticism tends to be very anxious, very moody, very touchy. Very touchy means very emotional, very sensitive. Then restless all the time in a hurry. Then quickly lose control of themselves, of their emotions, of their frustrations, and everything. They quickly lose control. Then the polar opposite is the emotionally stable people. They are quite reliable. They are even tempered. Even tempered means they are not short tempered. They are calm. Comparatively, they are calm. Then they remain under control. If neurotic people lose control, then emotionally stable people has to have control, isn't it? Just the opposite. Yeah. So that is neuroticism versus emotional stability. Neuroticism, all those are new terms for you, right? Mark that and keep, because we have neurotic disorders to learn. The whole section of neurotic disorders are there. Okay, so if I call somebody neurotic, you are very neurotic, then what does that mean? Sana, what would that mean? I see someone walking on the street and I call that person as very neurotic. I say that this person is very neurotic. What does that mean? What are the features? Tell me.
Anxiety.
Anxiety. What would an anxious person do? Imagine.
They'll be stressed.
Very stressful. Yeah, where they'll show very tensed behaviors or stressful behaviors. Then they'll always be restless. They'll be moody. Emotional problems might be there. They won't be able to control themselves. Okay. Okay. So understood what neuroticism is. Okay. Now next one. Grishma, read. Extraversion.
Extraversion versus introversion. It refers to the degree to which people are socially outgoing or socially withdrawn. At one extreme are those who are active, gregarious, impulsive, and thrill seeking. At the other extreme are people who are passive, quiet, cautious, and reserved.
You know what extraversion and introversion means, isn't it? Extraversion means they are very much sociable. We have already discussed this earlier. They mingle with others, they are very friendly with others, they try to cooperate with others a lot, they talk a lot, they engage in social activities a lot, they are very active, energetic. Whereas introverts, they are very passive. Passive means not very active, opposite of active. Yeah. And they are comparatively quiet. When you compare an introvert and extrovert, introvert is always quiet, calm, probably alone. Not alone, they choose to be alone because they don't want anybody else company. They enjoy their own company. Then what? Cautious and reserved. They'll be always reserved. Usually, when you see an introvert, you usually say, he's a very reserved person or she is a very reserved person. He does not talk much or she does not talk much. Okay, that is the characteristic. Then they are very cautious. They are very sensitive to things. They are very careful in doing all the things. Whereas extroverts will be very much risk taking. They enjoy that. They get that pleasure from that. That is extraversion and introversion. So, which are the two main dimensions? Neuroticism versus emotional stability. Second dimension is extraversion versus introversion. Now, along with this, so these are the two dimensions, but along with this, Eysenck added a third dimension. After proposing these two dimensions, he added a third dimension which interacts with these two dimensions. We'll see what they are. Okay, Meghna. Meghna is yawning.
In a later work, Eysenck proposed a third dimension called psychotism versus sociability, which is
Psychoticism. Just like neuroticism, psychoticism.
psychoticism versus sociability, which
Mm.
is considered to interact with the other two dimensions mentioned above.
Mm.
A person who scores high on psychoticism dimensions tends to be hostile, egocentric, and antisocial.
Mm.
Eysenck personality questionnaire is the test which is used for studying these dimensions of personality.
Mm.
The trait approach is very popular and many advances in this respect are taking place.
Mm.
These are beyond the scope of your present studies.
Mm.
A new formulation has also been advanced that provides a novel scheme of organizing traits. This is formulation given in box 2.2.
Box 2.2. We'll see that now itself. But before that, psychoticism versus sociability. When you hear the word sociability, don't misunderstand it with extraversion. It does not mean that the people are very excited, very friendly, very sociable, all that. Those factors are there, but here, as a third dimension, we say psychoticism versus sociability, which means here sociability is just the opposite of psychoticism. And now we'll see what psychoticism is. Psychoticism characterized by hostile or hostility, then egocentric, and antisocial. Antisocial means that's familiar. Antisocial means
Those behaviors that are not good for the society.
behaviors that are not good for the society. Ashish, give me an example of an antisocial person. Are you an antisocial person?
Can you repeat the second question?
Huh?
Second question. I cannot
Can
hear
you give me an
properly.
example of an antisocial person? That's my question.
Hitler.
Aishwarya told that antisocial means people who do things which are not good for the society.
Hitler.
Hitler. Oh my god. Then he is another personality that we'll study. Any other person?
Some politicians.
Some
Politicians.
politicians. Then
പിന്നെ അങ്ങനെ criminals.
criminals. Yes, they are antisocial. They have antisocial personalities. Then so next time when you watch a movie, when you see a criminal, what would you say? This person has a very antisocial personality. Okay, done. Did you do that? Yes. And just let me know what the other people around you tells. They would be puzzled. What is this antisocial? Did you ever try? Yeah, it's the second year, no? The old question again. Did you start using psychology jargons at home? Yes. How many of you? Give me examples, please. Meghna.
Like I think it was January and all before the exam. Like personality and Sigmund Freud. And
How do you usually talk in psychology terms? That's what I'm asking.
like some of the terms and the persons and that's all.
Like, no, take us to that incident. I want the incident.
I think my mom was saying something about similar to character in movie.
Who?
Character in a movie. I think.
Which movie?
I don't remember.
You don't
that.
remember? Okay. Malayalam movie?
Yeah.
Hmm.
And he said so many. Then I said something later that the personality and all. So I said, I think Sigmund Freud and all. Like we studied branches of psychology and all. Later, I said that social psychology or psychology. So they was like, what do you mean by that? I didn't get what do you mean. So I explained it all from the branches of psychology.
Okay, fine. I still didn't understand in what context you said it.
Like I think my cousin also was there. He was small. So he said something related to movement. He was just talking. So in that he something said related to it. So it was like remembering the things studied. So I said to him.
Okay, fine. Elvina.
This happens with my sister as she was sitting very quiet, and I thought that she might be very like very sad or depressed. So I told her that this is due to this, as we have studied in Tridoshas and I said this is due to this Rajas Guna.
Rajas.
And my sister is asking what blunder I'm saying, and she asked me that if you didn't shut your mouth, that she came to meet me.
Sister says the same. But since I use these terms at home, my dad, mom, and sister knows many of these words. So when I start, suppose if they tell something and they three are for that particular thing, and I am against that particular thing, then they will start up telling all these terms, and I'll be like, am I studying psychology or are you studying psychology? Yeah, Aishwarya, what is your incident?
I began to be more philosophical, and I used to ask my grandmother to sit with me, and I'll be talking so philosophically, blah 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 blah, and she'll be like, "Better you didn't study psychology." And also to my mother, I'll be telling like, "You're this kind of person. I am this kind of person."
They must have thought that you have gone nuts. What about Sneha? How is psychology as far as now?
It's fine, ma'am. I'm just understanding it, trying to understand it.
Yeah, taking baby steps. Okay, Amal.
Yes, ma'am.
What about you?
Ma'am, when anything happens, I just make anything about theory about something and just tell. If like in the election, ma'am, there's a chance for a left to win. So it says that people vote for what they get for. They prefer the people who gives them more. So I like it. Account psychology. I'll add in the front and say they'll vote for the people who give them.
You'll make your own theories and say.
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. But that is actually right. Like we favor somebody whom we have benefits with. That is a part of social psychology. If social psychology is there, we learn in that. That is the attitude, the first impression, all those things. Tactics are there. Various tactics are there. How to please people. Persuasion strategies are there. In one of the persuasion strategies, this give them something so that we can take something from them. That's what these politicians are applying. They provide sanitizers, masks, 1 kg rice, this, that, and then what do we give them in return? Our valuable votes. That's it. Okay, Ashish, what about you?
When I was playing with my friends, I did a mistake.
Huh? You did?
You
made a mistake. Okay.
Then there is a argue between I and the friends.
You
And
argued with
collapsed.
them.
Yes.
Uh.
And that Pavlov's experiment, I said to them. Simply.
Simply.
And they thought I am right. Simply said. They thought I am the right.
What game did you play?
Football.
Football. And you won the argument.
Yes.
Oh my god. I didn't know that this theory had such a benefit. Okay, Grishma.
It's not terms I learned in this class, but it's related because earlier also I used to use such terms, but now that I'm taking psychology, it's because
it's more valid now.
When I went to my cousin's house, there was this baby there, and he's scared of my father because when he was just born, the baby saw my father shouting at his mom. So from then he was very scared, and then it's been a few years, but still he remembers my father's face. When we went to the house, he started crying.
Started crying. Baby started crying.
Just when he saw my father's face, he started crying. So me and my brother started to say that it looks like he has PTSD. So
PTSD.
So my cousins were like, "What is PTSD?" Then when I just started to say, they were like, "Oh, psychology student."
Yeah, PTSD is quite common now. Then that's all, Grishma. Okay, Sana. Tell. Tell, man. Don't waste time. Speak up, Sana. We are missing your voice.
Nothing.
Louder, louder.
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay, so okay, coming back to psychoticism. From where did we go there? Okay, psychoticism again. Yeah, we started with antisocial, no? Yes. Okay, hostility. What does being hostile mean?
Feeling of being lonely.
Feeling of being?
Lonely.
Not lonely.
Alone. Sometimes.
It's like you're showing indifference towards. If I'm showing hostility to you, that means I'm very indifferent to you. I don't want to be near you. It's like a scary feeling. Or if I'm being hostile to you, then that means what do you say? Like, how do I explain that? That's a feeling. You have to feel it. Hostility means haven't you feel hostile? Like if you are seeing a cave, then you feel that the cave is very hostile. It's very deadly. No. So you're very indifferent. You wouldn't certainly go near that. Got it? Like that. Yes. Then egocentric. What would egocentrism mean? Egocentrism. We have learned that. Egocentric. We have only whose point of view?
Our point of view.
Our point of view. Okay. Then antisocial we already discussed. Doing negative things towards the society or anything. It can be causing harm to the properties of other people, like throwing things at other people's property, like breaking the glass of the cars, then killing the animals, causing harm to the animals. That can be antisocial. Then stealing others' things. That can be antisocial. Then killing other people, that can be antisocial. There are different levels of antisocial features. Okay, all these comes under antisocial. So all these things together forms the psychoticism factor. Now opposite of that, that is non-hostile, non-egocentric, and not antisocial, which means quite social people. They belong to the sociability factor. Understood? That is the third dimension which has been added. And these two, psychoticism as well as sociability, they interact with the other two dimensions. Which were the previous two dimensions, Amal? Neuroticism versus
Neuroticism versus emotional stability,
emotional stability, and
extraversion versus introversion.
extraversion versus introversion. And the code for this is PEN, PEN, psychoticism, extraversion, neuroticism. And we have their opposites also. Psychoticism versus sociability, extraversion versus introversion. Then N is neuroticism. Neuroticism versus emotional stability. Okay. So next, one more term for you, that is neuroticism, new term. You can start using it so that you won't forget it. Start using in your daily life so that you won't forget that term. Clear? Eysenck's theory. Did I tell the full name? It's Hans J. Eysenck. Okay. Hans J. Eysenck. And I think in the when Eysenck proposed the third dimension, there was one more Eysenck together with this Eysenck. That was Sybil Eysenck. No need to write down, just telling. Okay. And coming back to the last paragraph, the trait approach is very popular and many advances in this respect are taking place. There have been many advances in science, in this theory, in psychology and all. And what happens? These are beyond the scope of your present studies, which means at +2 level, this is enough. Later on, you'll learn in an advanced form in the coming years. Then a new formulation has also been advanced that provides a novel scheme of organizing traits. Novel means
New.
yeah. Tell me, based on Eysenck's theory, which questionnaire is there? Which questionnaire is present? Switch on the videos. Tell fast. Based on Eysenck's theory. Based on Eysenck's theory, which questionnaire is present?
Eysenck's personality questionnaire.
Eysenck's Personality Questionnaire. It is also called as EPQ. EPQ. So if I ask you in the exam what is EPQ, you have to write Eysenck's Personality Questionnaire. Got it. And based on Cattell's theory, which questionnaire is present?
16 PF.
16 PF. You're taking that, no? 16 PF, 16 Personality Factors Questionnaire. EPQ is from Eysenck's theory. It is Eysenck's Personality Questionnaire. Okay, we'll learn about that in the assessment section. Now, see the box 2.2, 5-factor model of personality, 5-factor theory or 5-factor model of personality. It's also called big 5-factor theory. It's also called ocean theory, OCEAN, ocean. Underline the names given, Paul Costa and Robert McRae. Paul Costa, it's inside the box 2.2. Paul Costa and Robert McRae. Paul Costa. Okay. The controversy regarding the number of basic personality traits has taken an interesting turn in recent years. Paul Costa and Robert McRae have examined all possible personality traits. Okay. Any other person who examined all possible traits or all possible words used to describe personality of people? From dictionary, who found out more than 4,000 words?
Alport.
Was it Alport or Cattell?
Alport.
Alport, okay. Then the findings indicate a set of 5 factors. Those 5 factors are known as big 5 factors. Okay. And I told you it's also called ocean. 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 It's commonly called ocean. Don't write the name of the theory by Paul Costa and Robert McRae's ocean theory. This is a common name among the psychology people. Big 5-factor theory or big 5 factors, or it's called ocean theory. And O stands for openness to experience. Openness to experience. I think I have them in the record. I'll show you once the chapter is over. I'll show you the tests. Okay, it's like a booklet, small booklet. Openness to experience. Then extraversion. E is for extraversion. 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 Then what? C. Conscientiousness, agreeableness, then neuroticism. Conscientiousness, agreeableness, neuroticism. Okay, so they are categorized into openness to experience, conscientiousness, extraversion, agreeableness, neuroticism. It's easy to remember if you know ocean. Okay, now openness to experience. Those who score high on this factor are imaginative, curious, open to new ideas, and interested in cultural pursuits. In contrast, those who score low are very rigid. Okay. So openness to experience. What does that mean? Even if you don't know the characteristic, what does that word mean? Openness to experience. How many of you think you're open to experience? Open to new experiences. Nobody. Okay. Another question. We are going on a trip to Japan. Hmm? And we have so many new things around there. The culture, the tradition, the way the people wear, like a kimono, you know that particular traditional dressing. Then the food, sushi and all. They eat sushi. Has anybody tried? Not yet. Okay. So how many of you would try all these things when we go there? Ashish, if you're raising your hand, raise it like this. You'll keep always like this and Amal, wouldn't you try? No.
Hello, ma'am. Not
Yes.
the foods, other cultures I'll try.
Not the food. Other things
Uh,
you try. Why not food?
ma'am, like they're cooking like puffer fish. It is so poisonous. So
That's poisonous.
yes, ma'am, they cook puffer fish.
Puffer
Uh,
fish.
uh,
You don't eat puffer fish. What about the rest?
no, ma'am, I'm a vegetarian too. So
They cook vegetarian also. Who told Japanese are completely
I mean,
non-veg?
no, ma'am, not that.
Then
Second thing, I does not like the foods.
you may not
Uh,
like. Have you tried?
no.
No. When you try only you know, right?
Uh, yes, ma'am.
I'm not forcing you to try Japanese anyways. Yeah. So that means you all are at some point of time open to new experiences, isn't it? So you'll be quite flexible. Otherwise, there are some people who would go to a new place. They'll carry their own food. They'll carry their own dress. They'll carry their own everything, and they'll just go to the place. And if there are the traditional, the cultural things there to see, to experience, they just sit in the tourist bus itself, or just go and say, "Oh, is it the thing? Okay, then I'm going back." Finished. They're quite rigid. Then we all will be asking the question, why did this person come for the tour? Isn't it? We went there to see their culture, to experience all those things at first hand. So we have to do that. So people who are open to experience, see the features, they are imaginative. That is one thing. They're curious to know what is happening, what is this, how does this taste, how does this tradition go, how does this culture is significant, how is this significant, how is this important, what is the history of this. They'll be curious in each and everything. Then they are open to new ideas. Hmm? Suppose somebody tells them, try this thing, try that thing, try wearing a kimono, let's just try how this looks on you. They are open to new ideas. Then, and interested in cultural pursuits, in different cultural things, cultural values, cultural customs, and all, they might be interested. Then, in contrast, what if a person is there who is completely opposite of this? That person will be very rigid, very reluctant to change. Whereas people who are open to experience, they'll be very flexible in nature. Understood? Okay. So that is our O in ocean. Okay. The next is extraversion. Extraversion is the E in ocean. Extraversion, you all know. In characteristic, it characterizes people who are socially active, assertive, outgoing, talkative, and fun-loving. On its opposite are people who are very shy. That is introverts. You know that. Then agreeableness. This factor characterizes people who are helpful, cooperative, friendly, caring, and nurturing. On the opposite are people who are hostile and self-centered. Something like a psychoticism versus stability. Sorry, sociability. Okay, agreeableness. They are very agreeable means they agree to each and everything. They cooperate. They are very friendly. Understood? Then neuroticism, people who score high on this factor are emotionally unstable because we have learned that this is the opposite of emotional stability. So they are supposed to be emotionally unstable. Then what else? Anxious, worried, fearful, distressed, irritable, hypertensive. Hypertensive means they'll have hypertension, very much hypertension. And hypertension leads to what? What disease? We discussed just now. What disease?
Coronary heart disease.
What disease?
Coronary.
Coronary heart disease. Yes. Okay. And on the opposite sides are people who are well adjusted. Well adjusted means they can control themselves emotionally as well as in other terms. They can regulate their emotions. They are quite stable, calm, consistent. That's it. Neuroticism. Then comes conscientiousness. Conscientiousness. Study the spelling correctly. Conscientiousness. Okay, those who score high on this factor are achievement oriented, dependable, responsible, prudent, hardworking, and self controlled. On the opposite are people who are very impulsive. Impulsive means they take decisions very quickly without even thinking. So, conscientiousness people, they are very much careful about everything. They think before you leap. Have you heard that? Think twice before you take a decision. They'll be very careful about the things. They organize things very well. They know what is happening around. Then they take decisions, major life decisions based on all these factors only. And they are very hardworking, achievement oriented people. They know when to take risk, when not to take a risk. They sorry, they weigh the pros and cons always and then only take a decision. Whereas impulsive people, what do? Suppose I'll give you one example. uh, we have climbed on top of a hill, okay, and the guide says that if you jump from here you will get heaps and heaps of gold. The person who is very impulsive jumps within seconds. Within a snap, the person jumps. But the people who are conscientious, what do? They know, they weigh the pros and cons. If you jump, you might lose your life. You might break your legs. You might go into a coma. Hmm? You might get heaps and heaps of gold. But what is necessary here? Which is more valuable here? You're achievement oriented. You want gold. So you might climb down the other way instead of jumping. Got it? So they know what to do. They think all the consequences. They know what to do. They think about the various problems that might come. They think of various advantages, disadvantages, pros and cons. They control themselves. They know the responsibilities. They know what to depend on. And because of all these features, we can also depend on these people. Would you jump with the person who jumped from the cliff first, or would you stand and think and agree with the person who is being conscientious here? What would you do? Ashish, what would you do? What would you do? Would you jump from the cliff, or will you stand there and weigh the advantages and disadvantages?
I will think
You will
twice.
think and then only make a decision, isn't it? So that means you are not an impulsive person. You are very conscientious. Okay, do you understand that? Conscientiousness. So these are the 5 factors. O for openness to experience, C for conscientiousness, E for extraversion, then A for agreeableness, N for neuroticism. Many of the factors are from the previous series which we have learned. Okay, with that we complete the trait approaches. Any doubt? Doubt will be there only if you start studying. So we have the next test coming up. So study. Fine. Shall we wind up? Okay. So next class we'll study the psychodynamic approach. Who proposed psychodynamic? Meghna? Okay. Sigmund Freud. Okay then. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.